Hey, everybody. Hope you can hear me. Thanks so much for joining the panel this afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. It looks like we know a lot of you, so thank you for joining. But if you don't know us, my name is Justin. I manage membership at the One Club with Lou. I really want to thank our panelists. They are my favorite people in the industry. We have Fifi Jacobs from FCB. We have Courtney Burns from Huge and Emily Elyshevitz from Ogilvy. Virtual round of applause, I guess. I hope you sign up for our online reviews. If you haven't, go to oneclub.org. Our panelists have graciously offered their time to review books. If you haven't, everyone in the room is registered with their portfolio link. So each panelist at the end of this will get a full list of registrants to look at books, which is great. I'm going to kick it off to the panel right now. Please feel free to submit questions in the Q&A box. At the end of this, we'll have about 15 minutes for a Q&A. That's about it. Thanks again, everybody.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? Hope you got your... How's everybody doing today? Good?
I think we're all good.
We're good.
Awesome. This is what I love to hear. I'm so pumped to be doing this panel with you guys. You guys are two of my favorite people in the industry. And leading up to this, just for everybody who's on, leading up to this, we all got on a call to kind of chat through what our panel would be about. And we ended up enjoying each other's companies so much and learning so much from everybody else and what they've been doing in the industry that we decided to do it monthly. So we hope you guys enjoy the panel as much as we're going to enjoy giving it. We've got a whole bunch of things that we wanted to chat about, but we also want to take your questions as well. But yeah, I mean, I would love to kick us off and just like, I want to know from you guys, how did you guys transition to remote recruiting and interviewing? Was it difficult? Did you overcome, like, did you have any hurdle you had to overcome? Like, how did you guys do it at Ogilvy and FCB?
Well, I'll start. I had always been interviewing. It takes a lot to get kids to come mid-semester to fly to New York, and it's expensive. And so I had started doing Skype and FaceTime interviews about maybe, I would say maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was fine. It was wonderful. It was a little bit more intimate. I really liked the process. And so my transition was very easy. It was just then a matter of understanding Zoom and what that could do. And you know, it was very simple. There was no hurdles for me at all. Thank goodness.
Well, I feel the same way in terms of, you know, recruiting remotely. If you think about it, there were even days before this when I would occasionally work from home because sometimes recruiting in a quiet space can be very productive. So from that sense, it was a fairly easy transition in terms of speaking with candidates in the past. Per, you know, what Emily said is we did a lot of interviewing via FaceTime or Skype. And some of those candidates were hired. In fact, one of our interns in the past, we interviewed, did everything through Skype, hired the person, who then, of course, it wasn't quite all remote, so that person did come to New York. But I think the transition for recruiters, hopefully, has been somewhat seamless.
I agree with you. I mean, for us at Huge, we honestly, our recruiters sit all over the globe. And we're always hiring and moving people around. And, you know, there's a lot of relocation that goes on at Huge. And so I feel like we've always been doing this. Like, so for me, it was just, I mean, yeah, I miss my team and I miss being able to collaborate in person, but it didn't change recruiting in any way. We're like pretty savvy. We use Google for everything. Google's one of our big clients. So we use Google for everything. So we've always had all of our Google Hangouts and we have Zooms and all that stuff. But now, I don't know, I think it's even made recruiting a little bit easier, as like crazy as that is. Only because now I find myself looking in like other markets that I might not have looked in before, because I was so Brooklyn focused when I was hiring for Brooklyn, or I was London focused when I was hiring for London. But now everyone is everywhere. And I kind of, it opened my eyes to the ability to just recruit really anyone from anywhere. So like now I think I find myself looking at even new places to hire from, like not just the agency world. Like it's just got me in a whole new mindset.
You know what I think is really cool right now? I'm seeing messages in the chat from people who are in other states that normally don't get to participate in the One Club panel in New York. Like Mark Barry, he's in Alabama. Taraji Morris is in Philly. This is amazing. I think this is definitely the new way that we should really be thinking about, at least if not doing it like this all the time, at least adding this dynamic,
Right.
because now I'm getting to maybe not see them physically, but they get to participate and their students get to participate, even if they can't fly in, to the One Club in New York City. I think that's wonderful.
I think
I
it
feel
is
like they need to have
wonderful. I agree. I think it's, sorry, so just to say, I think it definitely has changed recruiting from that point of view. I think it's changed. We just hired some juniors straight out of school. One of them's in North Carolina at the moment. She went home to her parents, yay. And I think that what's happened is, the one thing I would say I missed, but it's sort of evened out, is that walking over to someone physically in the office and saying, did you look at that portfolio? Do you want to interview that person? However, I sort of missed that a little bit in the beginning as this was happening. I no longer miss it because I think that there's also an immediacy because people are remote, so that I can write to, creative directors and say, you're interviewing that person tomorrow, right? And you kind of get a more immediate response. The interviews are taking place and people are getting hired.
Yeah. I think
the cross-discipline approach is pretty cool too, though, because I used to only be able to have the people in that specific office interview a candidate. And I don't know if that really paints the whole picture of huge. Now I can have somebody in Oakland, somebody in Brooklyn, and somebody in London all on this person's interview, because at the end of the day, they'll be part of this discipline. And I think it's better to get a perspective as like a global agency from the global employees.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, what do you think about, so I know the biggest concern for a lot of people on this call are probably that they're watching agencies, reduce in force. There's been layoffs, there's been furloughs, there's been things. But from your perspective, and I know what I think because we chatted before, but are companies still hiring? And, if so, are there priority positions?
I think no matter when a company downsizes in any way, there is always going to be a need. There's always going to be positions that need to be filled. Maybe in some departments, not so much, but there will always be jobs. So, I mean, Ogilvy is definitely going through some transitions and lowering their staff numbers, but there are still jobs open and jobs available. So no one should give up the cause. You still have to just go, you just have to keep going. And, I know that Fifi has she's got this in her internship program that will start June 20th. But what happens then? Oh, when is it? June 1st?
Sorry, June 1st. We're really tight. We want all those submissions. There's a deadline, 15 days from now.
Oh, that's so cool. And because I know that is happening, then people that I know and I have met over the last few months during the pandemic, I can recommend to Fifi. So everybody, I think, I think to have the attitude that you won't get a job in this climate is just giving it up too soon. There are positions out there. There are jobs out there. You just may have to look a little bit more for the jobs.
I think that is true. I think that most places are running lean. So there's no extra. However, when there's an opening, we post it. We try to post it somewhere, on FCB Careers so people can access that. And see what openings we have and apply through that. To your point, I mean, I think that a lot of places are looking to be as trim as possible, but when there's a need, there will be hiring.
I mean, I could not agree with you more. We're down to a lot of our niche positions, but a lot of the people on this call have a really niche skill set. That's the beauty of this industry. And so while we're not hiring, in droves, we're still definitely hiring. But I also think what people forget is we're all really connected. like Fifi and I, especially because we are on the IPG roundtable, like like all of us share. I know that you guys like what positions you guys are looking for. You and I talked about them last week. So, it's like one of those moments where I would encourage anybody who's looking for a job to just start connecting with the recruiters. We're also all interconnected. So if you can like send a personal message instead of just like a random connection on LinkedIn, like if it's a personal message, like, hey, I do this, it could be super high level. Like, do you know anybody looking? I've already sent Emily a few candidates, and that's just because we're all sharing. Like at a time like this, we're trying our best to make sure that people get jobs. So even if it's not at Huge, do I want it to be at Ogilvy or FCV? 100%. Do I want people to just get jobs in general? Sure. But I want to kind of debunk the myth of whether or not people are still hiring, because we absolutely are still hiring. It may just be a very specific job, but a lot of people have a lot of specific skills,
Yeah, what I was thinking as we're talking about skills, I think especially, I would think more so for some juniors coming up, beginners, juniors coming up, that the skill set kind of has expanded. So that, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, maybe we didn't expect our designers or art directors to be really great at editing or animation. But now it's kind of, more and more skill sets like that are being included, in my opinion, into job descriptions. So that, and I think some of that came along with the need for content creation.
Mm-hmm.
So we at one point started our own little content creation group, and all those people came in with skill sets like, being able to go out and film and edit and, turn around very quickly because of the audience. So I think the more that juniors can offer in terms of, and I can also do this, I think it's attractive to the people who are doing the hiring.
Yeah, I think, in fact, there was a question in the list of questions that Justin had given to us, and there was a designer that said, should she or he know animation also? And that is something that I always encourage my interns and juniors to learn.
Absolutely.
Every year there is somebody that's coming up that's got even more of a skill set, has more of a handle on some of the programs. You have to know After Effects, you have to know animation. I even like it when my copywriters know how to make GIFs. I mean, everybody needs to know how to do everything. My advice to young people who don't have those skills, I know that you're working on your books, and your books will be forever a project that will never end, because the saying is, artists never finish work, they just merely abandon it, okay? And you don't abandon your work, I know that. But think about, instead of like trying to fine tune that portfolio so much, think about the thing that you don't know how to do well, or you really want to learn, and then go learn it. Go learn it, learn how to make GIFs. I've given gift assignments to people, and they've gone and gotten jobs in other places, and some with me, just go learn something. You need more animation, editing skills, After Effects, 3D, everything, learn it. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Fifi. Yeah.
I mean, now it's kind of a prerequisite. We just assume everyone knows Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
Things like that. And as you said, After Effects and Final Cut.
Mm-hmm.
I think that especially coming out of school, we're kind of expecting that you have that. And if you don't, you need to start exploring it. Actually, I was speaking with one candidate recently, and the subject came up about animation and other, related issues. And this person said, and I'm taking classes at night for filmmaking. So, adding anything like that, it's just, cliche icing on the cake, but it's great. Yes. And I find that my, creative directors and the people who are doing the hiring are looking for that more and more.
And, in this moment, I really want to let people know, don't be afraid of freelance. Like, truly, do not be afraid of freelance. A lot of companies are trying to keep their overhead down because we don't know what our clients are going to do. It's not like we don't know that we're going to need this. We just don't know what the landscape of their business is going to look like, and every client is different. So a lot of, like right now, a lot of the positions are going freelance. And I know sometimes coming out of school, there's a stigmatism around freelance, or when you've been in a full-time job for a really long time and, you're just used to that kind of lifestyle. like sink your teeth into freelance. Take any opportunity that's out there and like do it to the best of your ability, because the chances are they're going to, you know, extend your freelance contract, or you have more stuff to put in your book. Like at the end of the day, the freelance jobs are out there because I do think that companies are shying away, other than the niche positions, to, you know, go full force all in on hiring. But the work still needs to get done. There are still clients that are making things. And, you know, from my perspective, because Huge is very digital tech heavy, you know, that is, we are product innovation, we are experience design. We also have a very big integrated team. And I think that, you know, a lot of our clients are in play in that tech space. And some of those clients are people who are actually like helping out during the pandemic. So, you know, Google, if it's out there making Google Classroom, not to say that we made Google Classroom, I'm just saying that they still have all of these things that are going into the universe, and Spotify and Citrix. Like a lot of our clients are really doing an excellent job at, you know, helping during the pandemic. And that work still at the end of the day has to get done. So if there's a freelance job out there, start looking for freelance, start even like nudging recruiters, you know, with freelance books. But like, also, I just want to encourage people to start networking. Like, even if there is no job, this is your moment to actually go pillage the One Club's website. You can go through every award that has ever been won. Find the work that inspires you. Find the thing that like you saw that you were like, who made that? You now have time to go look at who made that. They have the credits up there for you to look at. Find that creative director and network with them and ask them for a coffee. See if they'll chat with you. Like, you know, I mean, you can say, you know, when it comes around, you'll buy them coffee in real life. But for now, everybody's pretty happy to take a virtual call. And like at the end of the day, we're no longer commuting. Like I know for me, my commute's an hour each way. So now I did a panel for Fordham, which is my alma mater, the other day, and people followed up asking if I would do one-on-ones with them. And I'm like, sure, all that time I had to commute, I now have to give to you. So I just, you know, encourage people to reach out.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I think you're absolutely on point with that. Networking is everything. And we have maybe, I mean, like we're working really long hours, and sometimes there's like no boundaries between like our real lives and like our work lives, because everything is intermixing. But there is more time now to look at books and to, you know, to network, meet someone. I do encourage my students in my night class to write a letter, find somebody that they really admire, find an industry hero, and just send a note and talk about joining and, you know, having a coffee, or, you know, meeting up, or giving an idea that might make them really excited that maybe they can use. I think one of the things that you can do in order to stand out is find something that you think a creative director or maybe even a recruiter might find really interesting and say, holy cow, wait a minute, our agency needs to work more with this kind of person. Like maybe you have a special skill set, like something in gaming, something in technology, right? And it just makes everybody think differently, makes it think broader. You guys out there, you have so much talent. And I think some of you don't realize how valuable those skills that you have, or those interests that you have, will be and could be to the industry at large. You've got a lot to offer. Yeah.
I agree. I think, you know what, both Emily and Courtney was saying about reaching out to individual people, creative directors, anybody you can find online with a credit. It doesn't have to be a creative director. It can be copywriter. It could even be a junior person, a junior art director. Somehow you connect with that person. If you make the right connection, if it resonates, I'm positive that person, I get emails from the creative staff all the time saying, this person reached out to me. Send a link, whatever it is. The one thing I would urge everyone to do is to try to make it somewhat personal, and make sure you're not sending out something that reeks of being a form letter that you send to every agency. It's okay to send it to every agency, but somehow put something in there that resonates specifically with that agency, or an ad you saw, or something online that you saw that relates to, whether it's Ogilvy or Huge or FCB New York. It can be a form letter, just tweak it so that it sounds like it's really directed to you. I will say that in the past, I've gotten one or two where somebody did not tweak it, And even though I think, Gray is great and BBDO is great, and they write to me and say, I understand there are great things going on at BBDO, and all I could write back is, yeah, I agree, but we're FCB New York. So just be careful when you do your things. Make sure that you're personalizing it, and make sure that you're writing to that agency and specifying why you're interested.
I get hi Brittany all the time. I don't like Brittany, and Brittany go to, like, I cannot figure it out, but it comes across my email all the time.
I got a note the other day in LinkedIn, and it said, dear, and then it was a blank line, and then the rest, I didn't even read it past that. And then I thought, okay, that's a mistake. And then I thought, wait a minute, maybe the young person thought that if they wrote it like that, I would definitely write back to them and make a comment that it was, because it could have been, right? It really could have been like a strategy to like kind of take me off and make me write something. And now we have a dialogue, right? But I still haven't really read it. So,
my gut on that is I would suspect it was not a strategy.
No, not at all.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like know who you're writing to. I mean, for real. That's first and foremost. But now is also a great time because I feel like there's so much content out there. Like now is the time that you should definitely be following the agencies that you want to work for, or the work that you love. Follow them on Instagram, follow them on Twitter, start following them, because you will find that there will be maybe there's job postings, maybe it's a piece of content that you want to read, like on thought leadership, that will lead you to be able to write a more compelling note about why you're the right fit. I got this great LinkedIn invite from somebody who had is in his master's program at MIT, working on mixed reality. And we're exploring mixed reality like right now very heavily for a couple of different clients. And his skill set was so amazing. And he's, not even graduated quite yet, and I knew that he was looking to like obviously stay in Cambridge because he's got another year. And I wrote immediately to our head of creative tech, and I was like, this guy is amazing. Like, if we have a freelance project, can we hire him? And like, those are the kinds of things. Like but he wrote me this like perfect note that says, these are the things I specialize in, and this is what I've done. It was no longer than a paragraph. It grabbed me instantly. I was like on his LinkedIn profile, I was on his portfolio. The next thing I know, like 5 minutes later, I'm forwarding him to like basically our CTO. So that's just, it's the right way to go.
Yeah,
I agree. I think if you can do something really punchy in the subject line, it certainly would get my attention. And I think it would get all of our attention. If you can put something in the subject line that really resonates, that has something to do with your specific agency, or use somebody's name, or, you found something online, again, that had a credit with somebody's name, put it in the subject line. It will get our attention, I think.
Do you guys know the story? There were two, they were interns, and they wanted to work at Droga, and everybody wanted to work at Droga. And what they did was they researched who the recruiter was, and then they found out a whole bunch of stuff about the recruiter, and then they went out and filmed 3 videos especially geared towards what the recruiter liked. And in this case, it happened to be Beyonce and tater tots. And though it may have seemed a little tiny bit creepy, they sent the video. The video actually got press. I believe it was picked up in Adweek, and they got the gig at Droga. I was a mixture of so proud of them and really pissed off that I couldn't recruit them for Ogilvy. But I mean, it was a great idea. It was a great strategy. They got the job. And as far as I am aware, when I check, because I'm always checking, they're still there. They're still there and doing well. So do something interesting. Yeah.
The attention grabbing stuff is fantastic. It makes an impression. It makes, even if I don't have the job right now, I still remember that person. And absolutely. It's really funny because I don't have a photographic memory, but I can tell you at least 2 or 3 pieces of work in every single person's book that I have ever hired them for. So like, also take the time to refine your book right now. Like if it's like, if you're an art director, have your copy partner start checking all the copy. Like
yes.
Mistakes all the time. And it's a turn-off because when you've gotten to the, creative director level, who's probably looking at the book to hire, say a copywriter or an art director, they catch it. They catch it in a whip. They know what the client reviews are like. And so like, I just think in this moment, if you have the time, send it to as many friends who are willing to look at your book. And then, also work on your LinkedIn profile. If you've had some internships under your belt or jobs under your belt, make sure that you're bulleting out what you did and what the clients were, because I don't want to have to hunt through every single person and it's just got a blank space under each job and just tells me they were an intern. I want to know what they worked on, because half the time I'm looking for were you working on a tech client? Did you work on CPG? Like, what did you work on? Because that specifically might be something that I need. So start to make it specific. But also make sure that your portfolio has range. Like, if your portfolio doesn't have range, like, I want to see that you can do everything. No, I don't expect you to be, once you enter into a job full time, and if you're just, graduating right now, once you get the job experience, you'll start to hone in on what your specialties are. But if you don't have specialties yet, show that you can at least work on range. You can do TVC, you can do print. Because I find that I will run into something where somebody just has done all print, or it's only social posts, or it's only, so even if you are just trying to reach out and like find somebody who you can talk to and ask them for like a brief, just ask them point blank, a creative director that you're friends with, or one of your professors, for a brief that you can work on. Say, my book is all this way. Do you have a brief for something else? And maybe it's just, spec work, but that's okay. It's something extra to show your creative muscle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think one of the questions had to do with whether you should include, I think the person used the word fake ads. I think certainly coming out of school, one would expect, and I wouldn't use the word fake, is that you're creating advertising that may not have been, in quotes, real. I don't think at any level, actually, I think even for senior people, as long as you're honest and you're not saying this was produced, this was given to a client. Fake? What if you have a great idea? It's not fake. Put it out there. And I think that was one of the questions. And I thought to myself, certainly coming out of school, nothing is fake. It's genuine.
Yeah.
100%.
I think when I saw that question, I thought about the fact that most kids coming out of school, everybody's working on the same thing. You're working on it in groups, you're working on it, everybody has the same assignment. And so when we go to these portfolio reviews, we're looking at the same work. I like to see how the credits roll, like what was your part in this? That's one thing. But one thing I keep coming back to is the fact that your personal work, your side hustle, that's the thing that is going to make me go, wow, I can show this guy to the executive creative director on American Express or on IBM or, on Instagram. It's your personal work that really gets everybody really excited. So I know that it's hard because a lot of you are just trying to finish up your assignments and you're trying to make your portfolios perfect, right? And we know that perfect is not going to happen because it's so subjective. But that personal project that you do, that thing that you love that comes from your soul, that's the thing I really truly believe that is always the thing that's on my mind that makes me say, hey, I need you to meet this guy. In fact, I hired an intern who had one of like the most interesting side hustles, and it was he took these sneakers and he then painted different famous iconic artist work on the sneakers, like aspects of the work. And then we did a presentation for the entire creative department of like people's like side hustles. And he was attending FIT, and the CCO said, we need that guy. We need him. We want to hire him. They hired him. I think he was with me for like I don't know, 3 months, 2 months. He got a job on the most coveted account, which at the time or is currently, he got a job on Instagram. They loved his personal work and they still love it. So that side project, that side hustle, to me, that's everything. That's your money. That's money in the bank, baby.
I could not agree more. I love people's personal projects, and sometimes it's the call out that I actually put in for the creative director or executive creative director, whoever I'm showing the book to. And I usually give them a high level. These were my favorite projects. This is what I think resonated. And some of the time, those are people's personal projects, because I want to see if you can stretch outside of advertising, because that's like marks of a true creative. And I don't care whether it's photography or sculpture or painting or whatever it may be. It could be like, I'll never forget the one where this woman who's now, she's probably a creative director herself. This goes back many years. But she had done a Ryan Gosling Easter egg hunt. And literally it went all over the city. It went viral. I think it was the New York Post picked it up. Like, it was everywhere. It was such a cool thing. I mean, I remember it, and it's got to be at this point, like at least 8 years ago. So like, you know, it's funny how those things come around. But I don't know about you guys. I've been getting asked this question a lot. So how do you guys think that this is going to impact underrepresented talent? Do you think that it's going to help or hinder? I'm just interested in perspective. I mean, I of course have my own POV on it too, but how do you guys think it's how it's affecting underrepresented talent?
That is such a great question, Courtney. I think in some ways it levels the playing field, you know, in terms of travel and the expense of travel. As long as the pipelines are open and people understand that there are opportunities and that they can use technology to interview. I think we're shaking things up, and the old way of doing things where like you have to be in front of someone to have an interview and they have to physically look at your book. I think that people have to realize that that is now a changing paradigm. You can do anything online. And that's the message, I think, maybe in this, during this panel, we can get out to the entire industry of kids that are looking for jobs now. We have to let them know we are willing to look at their work virtually. We are willing to get on a call. So it doesn't matter where you are, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what you have, don't just reach out. I think it can be a really good thing as long as we get the message out, and we're in that field of communication. We have to let people know it's okay. We can talk to you no matter where you are. Because there are some things I think that hold us back, that we think that we can't compete because we don't have, you know, we have a list of things, each one of us does, right? But I think that if we, and like the One Club, continue to let people know, no, there's opportunities. You can interview virtually, you can interview via Skype and Google and, you know, and Zoom. I think it'll be okay. We just have to make sure that the message gets out. And this is definitely one great platform for it.
I agree. I also think, you know, in terms of leveling the playing field, having people apply for things that maybe they thought, I'm not qualified, I, you know, didn't go to this school or that school. I think that the more we get the message out, I mean, in the past, we have hired interns who did not have what I would call a classic advertising portfolio, but they exhibited a love for writing. They exhibited a love for the craft. Those people, you know, you take a look and say, you know what, let's bring somebody else in who doesn't have what we're expecting, but who comes across with something different. Maybe they wrote articles. We once hired somebody who had invented a newspaper. So didn't come in with all classical, you know, I just got out of school and here are my ads, but was so interesting because they were, I want to say, atypical. That we pursued those people and we hired those people. And I think that just given the circumstances and remote, I think it has opened things up in a way that nobody ever anticipated, that we would get a richer and broader range of talent.
I completely agree. It's a moment to lean into that. So much so that we were going to host a portfolio review at Huge. It was supposed to happen on March 26th. And we had invited all of the schools in New York to come and visit. And then when we decided, okay, well, obviously we're closed, we can't do this. It just didn't seem like the right moment to do a virtual portfolio review at Huge, because we didn't necessarily have a tremendous amount of junior openings, and that seemed, inauthentic.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Why don't we have all of our creative directors sign up for the One Club's portfolio review? This is the perfect opportunity to use their skills and lean in. And so there I am sitting with our DE&I director, and he said, but what about all of the schools that have typically underrepresented talent that don't know about this portfolio review? I said, well, then it's our responsibility to reach out to the head of student affairs and share it with them and make sure that they do. And so we spent a lot of time going down that road of figuring out who might not have gotten this. And maybe they don't have classical, art backgrounds or copy backgrounds or anything like that, and taken advertising courses. But I said, that doesn't matter. They still have a chance to get reviewed, paired with someone who can teach them what they might need, what they might not know they needed before this. And so I think it's just an important moment for all of the agencies to be reaching out and being really mindful. And I think the three of us, are definitely doing that. Like, I know even at Huge, we measure all of our internal baselines. So anytime that there's an area, a discipline, or a team that has, we know exactly what the team makeup is. And that just puts the recruiter and the hiring manager at the moment where they actually have to say, actually, we've only seen this type of candidate. Bring us another, type of candidate. Like, we've seen enough of this. Let's do this so that we have equal playing field, so we have equal representation going into this job. So I just think it's a moment to step back and for all the agencies to start evaluating how they are doing that kind of hiring. And I think we're actually going to come out of it so much better. So for me, it's a great moment. So we have a ton of questions. Should we switch to our Q&A board?
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Sorry. I was going to say,
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have one here, and I think it would be great to have Emily and Courtney weigh in. I'll tell you my opinion. This is someone who is trying to find a job right now as fast as possible, but also wrote, and this is from Cooper, should I hold out to find a better job at an agency that would be more rewarding for me? And that's based on the fact that this person's trying to find a job as fast as possible. Do you guys want to take it first? I have an opinion, but what do you think?
The other day I had someone come to my class and do a presentation, and there's a creative director, and he said when he first started out his career, he was really kind of snooty about where he was going to work. And he wasn't going to take a job unless it was at like the top place. And he got a job offer at the place that he had been interning in, but he kind of felt like, I don't really want to be here. I want to be at whatever the top place was at the time. And he went and he taught, everybody loved him. So he was able to talk to everyone to get their feedback on, what they thought he should do. Should he hold out? Should he take the gig that he was already in, right, interning in? And they said, one creative director said to him, here's the thing, that place hasn't offered you a job. We've offered you a job. You take this job and grow here. And then when they are ready to offer you a job, then you can leave. So right now, yes, everyone is hiring for the most part. There are critical needs where they have to hire for, but there are jobs almost everywhere. If I agree that you take a job, you get the experience. Who knows, you may love the place. You might never want to leave. And everything is very cyclical. The agency that is on top today might not be on top tomorrow. We've seen things move around constantly. Take the job. If the job is not, if it's paying fairly, if it has a great culture, if it has a great reputation, take the job. Don't sit and wait. If you need the job now, take it. Just take it and work it. And then maybe when something else comes up, you can then leave and go for that dream job. But I say take that job, especially in this climate.
I completely agree. That is that moment where I think, take it and do it to the best of your ability. Like you will in this industry, and I tell everyone this, like I teach a course at Miami Ad School, and I tell my students this every time. Whatever you do, don't be a dick. So get in there and don't have a chip on your shoulder, because you will see these people again, no matter what. Somebody from that agency is going to go somewhere else, and you will run into them for the rest of your career, and they can either help or hinder you. So if you're going to take the job, just do it to the best of your ability. And even if you're looking for something right now, immediate, open yourself up to the idea of freelance. Like, I don't care if it's 2 weeks, it's something that you will then get to know the people in that agency, and then they may hire you for something in the future. And it builds a lasting relationship. So I think just take what is coming along at the moment and do it the best you can, because it's not your job forever. It's your job for right now, but do it well.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely. If you're offered a job, basically bottom line, as Courtney and Emily are really saying, bottom line is take the job. You will learn something from it no matter what, whether you learn that from a point of view of, wow, that was really great, that was positive, I learned a lot, or I learned that maybe this isn't the right fit for me. But there is a certain amount of sense that if you have a job, it will give you experience. You'll have a credit. You'll be able to move from that. You learn from everything. It's a strange market out there. I don't think across the board we're seeing hiring for staff jobs. Consider yourself a fortunate person that you're getting an offer. Take it.
100%.
Yeah.
And so we have another really good question. Not that they're not all really good questions, but this is somebody asking us what our view is regarding visa sponsorships, especially during this tough time. They're basically saying that a lot of them who had been studying here had to go back home to be safe from the coronavirus, and it's going to be harder for them to come back. And so, what advice is it going to be to getting a job, and how has this hindered their career journey?
That is, that's such a hard question, and it's pretty painful. I have to be honest, I don't really know what the landscape is going to be for that moving forward. I would say to still maintain, while you're waiting, still maintain the connections and still network, because I think every company has their own idea of how they're going to handle international creatives and what their needs are. And some of the bigger companies have international presence. I am always talking to people about, if, let's say, there's Ogilvy London, there's Ogilvy Spain, there's all of these different branches all over the world, maybe see about what's happening in your country. Get employed there. If your dream is to come back to New York, well, then work a year. There's a thing called, it's the transfer visa. I believe it's the L1 visa. You work a year, and then you transfer. You see if there's a job opening, and then you transfer. You have to look at your job survival skills, okay? You have to open yourself up. Do the best that you can where you are, and maintain all of your connections outside, because we know people all over the globe. We know people everywhere, and that could be beneficial for you. What the government is doing, have no idea, okay? I'll just say, I'm gonna put it in prayer for y'all, okay? I want you to be successful, and I want you to be happy. And one thing that I know, that the majority of my students who have had to go back home, they are working in their home country. They're working. So don't think New York is the only place to be. Don't think that. Don't think the United States is the only place to be. Do the best where you are. I mean, that's, I think, the best advice. Wherever you are, do the best where you are, and still hit us up on LinkedIn.
You said, Emily, that was exactly my response in a nutshell. We agree wholeheartedly. I can transfer you all over the place, so don't focus now. You will get here. I promise you will get here.
Yeah,
one way or the other.
I was also going to say, in terms of students, and I'm by no means a visa expert, but we have hired people out of school with OPT.
Mhm.
And I think there's a certain amount of time that you can be hired with that. The visa issue, I'm sure everything is slowed down, just the nature of what's going on in the world. But we're speaking to 2 candidates right now who do have, you know, if you want to call it an issue, visa issues. Some are easier than others. I don't think it should stop anybody from forging ahead, working and reaching out to people. I mean, if we can do something, we will. If we can't, we can't. But we will always try.
Right.
And where I'm at, we're all global. So every one of my recruiters, despite where they're based, is a global recruiter. And I know the hiring managers in every single office. So like, you know, even if it's a connection that somebody made with me when they were at school, I mean, that's fine. I can, you know, easily just, you know, ping the MD of the London office and say, hey, take a look at this person. They might be really interesting for you. So yeah, I completely agree with what both of you guys said. That's perfect. Should we go? We've got another one that says, how do you virtually gauge if a new grad is a culture and skill fit for the company?
How do we gauge? Okay, go ahead, Fifi.
No, I was going to say, you know, the easier answer, the easier part of that question certainly is skills and skill set. That's the part that you can define, that you can look at. Cultural fit, that, you know, is something that I want to say, it's kind of like in your fingertips when you talk to someone and you find out the way they express themselves. You find that out when they speak with the people who are the potential hiring managers. For the most part, I think we've been pretty lucky. I think that, you know, there's so much that you can learn in an interview process. There's so much you can talk to and talk about, not just the person, but their bigger interests, their interests beyond advertising.
Yeah.
It definitely tells people a lot about whether you're going to fit into the culture. I like to think that, you know, actually, pat on the back to FCB New York, I think we have a great culture. I think we have a very embracing culture. And I think that it makes it easier to sort of just become a part of it. I don't know, what experience of the 2 of you? What's your experience been?
You can tell. I mean, when you've been interviewing for a long time, there are just questions that we will ask you, and I will not tell you what they are now, my love. But there are questions that we will ask that will let us know. It will give us those hints that we'll get that, you know, that tingling. I have a tell, you know, my tell is like, if I look at your book and I'm talking to you and I get flutters in my belly, I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is going to be great for this, that, and the other thing. There are professional ways that we handle it, and we do know who is a right fit. I have not yet had a problem with a cultural fit, and this is since like a few years ago, interviewing via, you know, online. I have not had a problem with anybody. I may have had issues where there have been situations that may have been mandated for me, okay? But if you allow me, if I am allowed to do the interviewing, I have a sense about those things, and I'm very protective about the culture of my company, because I've got to work there. And to Courtney's point, I don't want any dicks, okay? I don't. All right, I want you to be a good person, a person that will be collaborative, a person that will be helpful, a person who will be reliable and dependable, on top of having mad skills, okay? So
skills, I love it.
We could do it. We do it.
I love it. Now, and for Huge, I mean, our biggest motto, like in the entire, you know, the thing we feel most passionate about is give a shit. And I can definitely tell on a call. I don't care whether it is a phone call. I don't care whether it is a Zoom, a Google Hangout, or whether it's in person. I know whether you're going to give a shit. And that's what I need you to do. So your book and your skills need to be there first. And then I can tell culturally, as long as you give a shit about what you're doing, you give a shit about wanting to work at Huge, and you give a shit about the people that you work with, and you give a shit about what you're working on, that's like, that makes it for me.
Yeah. And if you give a shit about wanting to learn, because if you're coming right out of school or you haven't been in the industry very long, I want to know that you want to learn, you know? You want to get better and better and better. That's important.
Absolutely. That's the type of hunger you want to see. And I think that, you know, the three of us and a lot of recruiters who've been doing this for a while, we can tell a lot. Even before, you know, it doesn't have to be Skype. It doesn't have to be Zoom. We can tell a lot over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
The way you answer questions, the energy that you put in. I think probably for the two of you and for myself, I don't think we tend to pass along people and recommend them highly unless we feel that's like the first cut. Aside from, obviously, the first cut is the creative. What do you have?
Right.
What are you showing?
Right.
But the next cut is, what do we hear from you? What are you saying? Do you sound like a team player? Although, you know, do you sound like someone who is going to embrace the work that they're given? Do you sound like someone who is not going to say, oh, that work is beneath me? So I do think that we do that first kind of cut when we speak to people.
Yeah.
I agree. Somebody else asked us if they're graduating in December, is it too early to start talking to recruiters for creative roles? And personally, I think it's never too early. Like
Absolutely.
you can absolutely, even if your book isn't quite there, you just introduce yourself, and that way you've gotten me as a first connection on LinkedIn. Guess what? Now you have my email. So when your book is ready, you can absolutely email me your book. So as long as I accepted you and you wrote me something compelling like, hey, just want to learn, or I love the work you guys are doing, or you're dropping something in there, I'm going to accept you. And then you're going to have my email. And then you can just write me when it's done. Hey, I reached out to you at this point and I'm following up now that I'm ready to go. So I don't think it's ever too early. So reach out.
It's never too early. In fact, I've had so much success with finding people, maybe they're in their sophomore year, maybe they're in their junior year, they're not ready to, you know, to work or whatever it is. And I've developed relationships with them online. We've talked, we've called, I've asked them, maybe if I like them as a personality and I see that there's potential, I might give them an assignment and say, hey, go work on this and then come back to me and see what you bring. There is so much. I'm developing this tremendous relationship. And then you come to where I am, you come to Ogilvy, and then I have, first of all, I can speak to who you are and how well you work because I've had 6 months experience, 3 years experience with you. And you understand how I work and what you have to give to the agency. I think it's wonderful. I consider it like finding the kids and tagging them and then sending them back out to school in the wild and learning. And then I'm like, hey, when are you graduating?
Right.
Are you ready for an internship? You want to come? You know, some of them have said, well, you know, I really am looking for a full-time job after college. And I'm like, well, then baby, you do that. Okay. And then afterwards, if it gets a little hard, then they come back. Hey, mama, how you doing? What's going on? I'm like, I see you, boo. I see you. And yes, I love you because you're still talented and I don't mind the hustle. Okay. So I've had great success with that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no. Sorry. I was going to say that, you know, part of it, we've all been to the portfolio reviews at the One Club when we were doing the physical portfolio review.
Yeah.
And there are relationships that are forged. You look at somebody's portfolio, maybe they're a sophomore, maybe they're, you know, they're a junior, they're not ready to graduate, or they're about to enter their last year. Those people stay connected to you, and assuming that they make an effort to make it personal and about your agency, I get, you know, emails saying, remember I met you at the One Club portfolio review. I'm now blah, blah, blah. Please take a look at my new portfolio. And I think that those relationships are important. And those are people who haven't graduated. Maybe they're a year away from graduation. But I think forging those relationships is really important.
I agree. I don't know, I heard a chime. So I know we have only a couple of minutes left, so why don't we try and tackle a couple questions as quickly as we can so we can get through a few more. I've got one from Benjamin, and he says, do you think agencies are in need of junior creatives as much as other higher level positions right now?
Well, right now, our open positions happen to be at the junior level. So I think that is agency specific. I think that, a product of why we're doing that, or the product, is really that we have picked up new business. So we're forming teams, and I think that it's a great opportunity for us to be hiring juniors. So
I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's great. It is very much agency specific. I think everybody has their own strengths. If we're hiring, senior level, then we're kind of looking at people who are more client facing. And if we're looking at juniors, we're looking at a skill set that might be more conceptual, might stir the pot, bring some new ideas, and help us win business. So it really is agency specific, and it's also account specific. So, it depends on the account.
I completely agree. But I'll move on to the next one since I'm in total agreement with both of you. Somebody else asked us, it's an anonymous attendee, so I don't know who. They asked, any tips for video interviews and presenting yourself and your portfolio virtually?
I haven't had a problem with it, with anything. I mean, I don't know. I've been okay with every single thing. I mean, make sure that all of the technology on your site, like your videos, can be played. Maybe you have to do a test before, because sometimes I know that, like in class, because Courtney and I both teach a class for Miami Ad School, sometimes when the kids are doing presentations, what's happening is like the audio isn't working on videos, or find a way to make sure that those things can be played and clear. Depending on the platform that you're using, just make sure that you know how to use that platform. Right now, the only issue I've seen is with the audio part when people are on Zoom. They haven't been like really, working that out prior.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, try not to look schlumpy. Try not to have your roommate like barging in your door. We've had all sorts of people. We've had people sleep through their interviews. Remember when they all got a calendar invite? We've just had a lot of interesting ridiculousness from the working from home front. But like, even to the point where you've got somebody still in their pajamas, and I'm like, it's still an interview. Like, get ready for it. And so I think, be prepared to be able to do a screen share. Be tech savvy enough that you can screen share your portfolio, and you can take the creative directors or the person that you're speaking with through it like you would, because you would actually have your laptop with you in an interview. So please, for the love of God, have it ready to go, have it ready to share, because you know what, they're still busy. So they're going from client call to client call. If you can get on there and you can say, hey, do you want to see like a couple pieces of work while I have you on there? I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, I do want to see the work, because that's what we're here to talk about. So that's kind of where I'm saying, like, just test it out on your friend, test it out on anybody you can. Like, hey, can we just do a quick run through on this platform? I've never used it before, and just do that. That was my advice.
Yeah. I mean, I think to, echo what both of you are saying in terms of being prepared for an interview. I mean, if you have to kind of psych yourself into the idea that, you know what, this is not remote. I'm getting ready for this interview because in my mind, I'm going to be seeing that person in person. That's the way to prepare.
I agree. And so somebody else is asking us if most agencies only hire juniors that have gone through their own internship program. No. It's really, if you're talented and you've emailed me and we've got a position, you're getting hired.
That's right.
I think we're basically at time. So I don't know if we have time for one more, but I see Justin again. I think we're going to cut off.
Hi, Justin.
Courtney, Emily, thank you so much. And thank you to the 160 participants in here too. That's been amazing.
Wow.
A lot of you guys members too, which is always really nice to see. We're going to leave this session up a little bit longer. If you three have a little bit of time to answer the questions, there was a lot that were unanswered, which is a great thing. But we know that you are busy and have a life. So if you can't, we get it. I did want to direct you, actually, the attendees, to an article that Fifi was actually featured in for an event very similar to this. And a lot of the questions that were not answered today might be answered in that article. So I just put it in the chat, and that might be helpful for all the attendees. Thank you again, everybody. And we actually have one more session left for today. It's at 4 p.m. You can catch it at oneclub.org/creative month. I think that wraps this up. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.